You did it, John. Okay, we're so excited about today's panel. This is extra because all of these people are extra. They've gone above and beyond the role that is the traditional buying and selling of real estate and being a full service real estate consultant for a client, and they've taken their profession to the next professional level, I'm going to say. So I am very, very honored to sit here with all of you because you all have completely different roles outside of the traditional real estate role. And so I wanted to just talk about the importance of that and why an agent should get involved. So let's just kind of go down the line. We can go either way. Patrice or Joyce, whoever wants to start first. And Joyce, let's start with you. If you guys just tell me, what area of the industry are you involved in? And what I mean by that is, are you with Tree Pack, TAR, the board? Are you helping with what?
Well, I'm slowing down a lot, but I've been very active in our association. I've been president 3 times. I was regional vice president of TAR, also TAR director. And right now I'm on the governmental affairs committee. It's just really important. If you're going to be a professional, you should be a member of your professional organization and really work, because not only is it beneficial to you, it's also to your clients. I mean, you learn things, you see things, and really know it first. So
I think that's fantastic, and you've kind of sampled several of them. So I want to come back to that and talk about what you've gained from those. Kathy, you want to talk about your role?
I served on Tree Pack. I'm the co-chair of Tree Pack this year, and I'll be the chair next year committee. And I serve on professional development committee at the board, and I've been involved in other things too. Like I was the chair of the Burleson area realtor tour group and stuff like that.
Okay, and I just realized before we get too far, will you say what office you're with and how long you've been licensed? And also let's be as loud as we can since we're a big group.
okay, Joyce Wallace, member of the Greater Metro West Association of Realtors, which is Weatherford area. And I've been in the business 40 years. I'm an old one.
I love that. You've seen the market do everything.
I started when the interest rates were like 19%. No one told me what it was going to be like, but
People thought.
I survived.
Yeah. Yeah. Kathy.
My name is Kathy West. I got my license in 2010. I achieved my broker's license in 2017, and I'm at the Greater Fort Worth Board of Realtors.
Mine's Malin Powers, and I got my license in 2009. I've been at RE/MAX ever since. I sold new construction for 7 years before that. I'm in this office, and I'm currently, for a few more weeks, a member of Greater Fort Worth Association. And I started volunteering because my broker was a nag. And no, I'm teasing, of course, but so and I volunteer kind of on all levels. At the locally, I've been a director on the board. I've served on Tree Pack. Statewide, I'm on professional standards. On the national level, I'm an FPC and a member of President's Circle. I was a Tree Pack trustee, so I've served all across every level.
What is an FP, whatever you just said?
An FPC is a federal political coordinator,
Okay.
which is a realtors liaison between them and the National Association of Realtors.
Okay.
So I just communicate issues that have to do with housing and real estate related issues to my congressperson.
And I've had the benefit of seeing you do that twice personally and watching her state the goals of the realtors for the entire Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and state directly to them at the Capitol.
And you've seen me, I should say that's a statewide level. I'm a legislative contact team lead. That's what I've done on a statewide level. The FBC is for my US representative. So I serve both.
I love it. That's fantastic. And we're definitely coming back to where your stuff has taken you. Okay, Karita.
I'm Karita Loftus. I'm with the Highland Village office cross country. I am part of the Greater Louisville Association of Realtors. And I have served in the past on the Community Services Committee locally at the board. I've been on the GLAR board as a member, and then I am also a former Texas Realtors Board of Director. I'm currently serving as the Netras Board of Directors representing GLAR.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, and by virtue of that, I'm on the MLS committee. And then I'm also serve on the GLAR Board of Directors currently.
Love that.
Sorry.
And
I've been a member, I've been a realtor, I should say, since 2013. So I celebrated my 10 years in February. Yay.
yeah, good job.
I joined REMAX as soon as I could. Kind of like that. I got to
Here.
Realtor of the year,
Yes.
Realtor of the year for GLAR.
Yes, for the whole board. Anthony.
Hi, my name's Anthony Cole. Haven't had a drink and, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Say your last name first.
Wrong meeting. I'm a member of Greater Fort Worth Association of Realtors. I've been licensed for approximately 20 years. I have been a director for Greater Fort Worth several times over, chaired. I don't even know. I've chaired several committees, property management committee, governmental affairs. What else? I enjoy the TAR. I'm more on the TAR level. I do on the professional standards. I've chaired that for Texas a couple of times. I like to do mediations. So I think
Like to do it.
I like to do it.
Enjoy it.
I enjoy it. I think I'm going to stay at the Texas level. I don't know if I want to jump up to the national level, but I do enjoy that.
And he has great songs.
And I have a good sock.
Great songs.
My dogs.
Oh,
Socking.
Tracy, you're currently serving and have passed served. Oh, that's correct.
Yes, so Tracy Nicodemus, for those of you who don't know me.
We don't have a.
So I became a real estate agent in 2006. I was a custom home builder for a decade before I became a real estate agent. Served my first committee, my first year in real estate. I served on the three-pack committee at GLAR in 2007. And then I started serving again. There was a little bit of a gap for me, but I love budget and finance. So I served the budget and finance committee. I'm 2019 president for Greater Louisville Association. I've served as a course board of director because that's a path. If you're going to become president, there's this whole path that you go through that takes several years. I'm currently on the MLS committee for the Greater Fort Worth. I am a member of GLAR, Metro Tex, Greater Fort Worth, Greater Metro West, College Bryan Station, and I think maybe San Antonio, I'm not sure. But needless to say, I am just a board lover.
I love it.
I did serve for a partial year as a Texas Realtor director. But then I adopted all of you lovely people. And so I really needed to focus here. So I resigned my position so that someone else at GLAR can take that up. So I'm also a Texas Realtor Leadership Program graduate.
Yeah.
Anthony.
All about
We
it.
went together.
We did.
Everybody graduates.
I am.
Yes.
Everyone. Yes.
I'm not doing.
So many voice.
I know, I was gonna say, you guys have it there, but I met Anthony in 2015. And we graduated together in 16.
If we had timed this better, we could have sung I Got You, Baby.
We have time for that later.
That would have been funny.
I love court service because I am a huge proponent to ethics. And I think that in any capacity that you serve, or at least my experience has been, is that it is a higher level of servant leadership. And I have personally found both personal and professional growth through every time I've served in the level. So I'm a huge proponent. support service.
I love that, and I'm not on the panel, but I will say that I have done the technology committee, the MLS committee. And the events for my area committee, and I agree with that. Would you guys mind telling, and it doesn't have to go in any particular order down the road, but sort of why you picked the segment that you chose? Because I can hear that we're all a little bit varied, and Tracy touched on why she kind of went for what she went in finance, she gravitated towards that personally, and what she gained out of it professionally, but with so many options on ways to serve, how did you guys come to what you were going to choose?
So for me, the tree pack, I love tree pack. I like the governmental awareness and how it impacts. And then as far as, serving on the board of directors, during that tenure, and even before board of directors, serving on the finance committee. I enjoyed that because obviously, financial health is important to a board. And just being transparent, just not every single realtor has good financial sense. And so, I'm just being real. Just being real, like not a lot of them have ever in business before. And when you look at what a board budget is, the amount of money that runs through, and then the amount of necessity that the board has to be healthy, to provide services and support to their members. Just to me, I wanted to make sure that my board was going to be financially healthy to ensure its future, because I got part of my board. And then that, of course, catapulted me into executive leadership. So, and Kim Lambert, of course, she was the AD at the time. She was just a major cheerleader.
What's the AE?
Association executive.
Okay.
Major cheerleader, excellent at identifying people's natural abilities and matching them with service. So Kim kind of pushed me in that way. And it was really good for me.
Then you were hooked.
Oh gosh.
What about the rest of you? What made you look in the first place, and why did you choose what you chose?
Because Malin made me.
And I would carry secret.
Because she just encouraged me. I've always donated to Tree Pack. I've always been a cheerleader for Tree Pack. I really feel like serving Tree Pack helps us serve our clients. And
Catherine, will you say what Tree Pack is? Because I want to make sure that, because this is going to live on and recorded. People that are interested, I'm going to be sending them this recording. So
Texas Realtor Political Action Committee.
I love it.
And it's every couple years we went and march on the Hill. To see your Congress and legislatures, Malin got to talk to them for us. To see all that in action is really eye-opening for me.
That's a good
And
way to put it. Makes you
so-
realize you're part of something bigger within your community.
bigger
Just
than
awesome.
myself, yeah. And it's important, and I talk to my clients about it. I mean, it's a great thing.
So you got peer pressure.
Yeah, well,
What-
I think
peer pressure?
my reasoning was kind of a combination of the two of theirs. I like being in the know. So I like getting, I like knowing first. I like having information and being part of a pack. I mean, a lot of people have a negative view of politics, and so it really gives you a more positive view and how you can make a difference instead of just complaining about it. So I think for me, it was just learning more, knowing more, getting to meet people. Part of the governmental affairs process is that we interview candidates. Like I said, I'm a lead contact for people. You get to know people, you go to events where you see people, you sit next to people, they know your name, you can ask questions when you need something. And it's just a process. It's really been enjoyable for me. And one thing kind of always led to another for me. I really started out on Tree Pack and my journey just kept going.
Like Tracy, you started one spot and now you're hooked.
Yeah.
For life.
And
Yeah,
it's
for life.
considered the purple party. It's not a red problem. It's not a blue problem. It's a purple resolution.
So make sure that we're focused on property rights and how a realtor can affect.
Right.
Community.
It
and
isn't
homeownership.
political. It's helping our clients and ourselves and other homeowners navigate the system, you know?
And I would also share about tree pack, one of the things that I think is something to know. They will support candidates and it is not based on their party, it's based on their view. And as it in regards to things that affect homeownership, that affect our industry. So, you know, it doesn't matter whether they're Republican or Democrat. What matters is when the governmental affairs actually interviews their candidates and they find out where they stand on different issues. That's what causes them to either support them or not support them. And that was something I didn't know until I got involved.
Right.
So whenever you see these endorsements from a board, or you see endorsements from a state level, or even at a national level, there is a sifting process that happens when they do their candidate interviews. And so if you're not involved, hopefully that information helps you to understand that process.
But the sifting process is only related to our industry. So I think that's,
Yes.
you know, what people don't understand. They'll say, well, I don't like the way that person feels about X issue. And you're like, well, that is not our issue. You know, we're only focused on homeownership and private property rights. And if that's what you need to go to the polls with, that's what you go to the polls with. But if you need to go to the polls with something else, that's fine. We're just telling you what,
Further stance.
which candidates stand for the real estate issues.
And I will say this, when you go through interviews, sometimes you find out real quick that they know nothing about property rights. And
Yes.
it's amazing if they're going to be representing us, whether it be city, county, or state or whatever, and you ask them questions about property rights and they just look at you and you thinking, goodness gracious, they haven't done their homework to know who's interviewing them. And if we're willing to help them with their campaign. So you really find out a lot. And I don't think that realtors did find
It is
this out.
scary. It's
Yeah,
very
real
scary.
Yeah, and the vast majority of voters are property owners. I mean, there's a good segment that are not property owners that are renters, but the majority is. I think that's really important.
Mhm.
What about you, Joyce? How did you decide? Because obviously you've done several different roles, but how did you decide to get started and why did you pick what you chose?
Well, you know, our association was encouraging, Carolyn Wall has been our AE for 26 years and she was always encouraging people on a very low tone way of doing it because she's not one of those that just hits you fast and furious. But also I managed offices here in Fort Worth. I started out with a co-op banker office, you know, and then ended up with William Rigg, which a lot of people don't remember William Rigg, few people do. And it was, you know, it was important for me to know so I could go to the agents also. And then I just kind of got in the leadership role by being in management too. And it helped me in management to work with the agents and be able to answer some questions and encourage them. And I will say this, some of the agents that I've dealt with over the years, they didn't worry about it because they said, oh, you're going to let us know everything. And I go, no, you need to know everything. It's not me, you know, I may leave something out. And so combination of that. And I will say I worked in professional standards also and ombudsman and mediation. I've done all of that. And that helped, you know, in management, but it also helped working with clients. And they're, you know, I think the agents see people in leadership and they just look at us a different way, but we're them, they're us.
Yep.
And so just different things like that was really important. And
Well,
it teaches you a lot of things because, you know, buyers and sellers are difficult.
Yeah, well,
And-
that's what I was gonna say. I think the clients also look at you different, than
Mhm.
professional. I know the agents do as well, but I think the
Mhm.
clients see that you're doing something beyond just what's required of your role to get a house sold. I think. it's
Right,
great.
and getting your designations and such, I think that's important too, because you learn a lot, but you get that designation, and people ask sometimes, what is ABR? Well, you can tell them, you know, and so, there's a lot of reasons to get into it, it's just don't go sell, I mean, that's. I just, you know, and I think our industry in the last few years, a lot of people got into business just to make money.
Yes.
And this is a relation building business, and to build relationships, you need to know how to work with them. And when you get into any leadership in the training program, you know, I'm over all of that. But that's been great because it's good with your clients to have that. So I encourage people, agents all the time. I've talked some of them into going to it just because I know they're going to learn a lot, and I see them as agents that are going to be successful, and also knowing that, you know, everybody needs something all the time. I complain about going to classes, or I love it now that Zoom, but I really enjoy them because I always learn something, always learn something.
Well, the same, you take the same thing over and over and learn something new. What about you two? How'd you pick?
Well, Kim Lambert approached me about getting involved with the association after I was fairly new. And when she first asked, I wasn't in a position on a personal level to be able to do it because of family obligations. So once those obligations were not there anymore, I told her I was ready to get involved. So the first thing that I recall was I was on the community services committee, and my biggest project there was Stuff the Bus. I enjoy getting all the supplies together and raising money to help the Louisville ISD students. Giving back.
Yeah.
That was
Just say she crushed it.
Yes.
Our office led the entire GLA on the board. 4 years,
yeah.
4 years, and we had offices that were 4 times our size that didn't collect what we collected with Rita leading us. So,
Thank you.
kudos.
What a nice, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I'm kind of, I'm not one to like be in the upfront. This kind of thing is just scares me. I've been through TRLP and that helped, and I've been through all sorts of training programs in my past life, as I call it. But I always want to participate. I want to give back some of what I'm receiving from the association. So I wanted to give back. So I served on the board for a couple of years and then was appointed to the TR director and did that for 4 years. And I just enjoy that. I enjoy the camaraderie that you have with other agents on the local level and the state level. I'm kind of like Anthony here. I'm not really goal oriented towards the national level. I like keeping it local. But I like being involved. I like being first to know what's coming down the pipe. It's just kind of like, I know what's coming. And it kind of like with Broker Bay, and I know some of you guys don't like Broker Bay, but it's going to get better. Just seeing that presentation first, being on the Netris board was very enlightening and just gave us all like, oh, wow, this is so good. And it will be. We just got to get to the learning stages and get the kinks worked out with any new program that happens. That's happening to me on a lot of different levels.
Naturally, she can advocate, which is part of it. I mean,
But that's me, you know, I'm kind of the person in the background, but I'm still there supporting and doing what I can to help realtors. And I kind of amen what these ladies have already said.
yeah.
I'm sorry, piggyback kind of on what Joy said and what Sarita is, the Realtor of the Year thing. I have a client who is a Teacher of the Year. And she's so impressed by the fact that I was a Realtor of the Year. I mean, she thinks you never let that get off your signature line because it was super important to her because she also got that in her industry. So I think we don't always know. Like probably a lot of people never tell us how important that is to them. It's somebody who I'm really close to, so she shared that with me. But I mean, there's sometimes like you were saying about designations or whatever, your accomplishments that you don't know how important it is to somebody.
And that I was going to mention that I recently was phone interviewed by a potential client that saw my neighborhood ad on Facebook. And he was looking for someone to list his rental property because he wanted to sell it. And so he got to talking and we started talking and he's like, well, what does all this mean? Talking about my designations. And then that led me into to tell him, you know, I serve at the local level, I serve at the state level, and how that helps me to know what's going on in terms of property rights and taxes and everything. And he was like, okay, he says, I think you're my realtor. I like someone that is active and knows what's happening and is always learning new stuff.
To your point about clients and to your point about other agents as well, I think that there's a lot of agents. When you're about to do a deal with somebody and you've got those credentials on your signature picker that they notice. And there's an immediate level of respect that comes with that too. So I can
Well,
totally.
and just in doing deals with outside of Remax, and you're working with a whole bunch of other people.
Right.
And I recently had a transaction with one of the gentlemen, Tim Schorndorf. There you go. Have a hard time. So, but he's been at the state level. He's on the Netris, he was the chairman of the Netris board last year. And as soon as I called him and said, hey, I've got this buyer for your property, let me ask you some questions. We immediately clicked and we're like, okay, let's work together. So it's really very beneficial on all levels.
During the multiple offer time.
Absolutely.
And deals,
Yes.
they knew me.
Yes.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
you know, there are so many areas where, because I know there's this myth about if you focus on board service, you won't make money, or I need to concentrate on my business, that is a myth.
That's
You will get referrals, you will get favored and multiple offers, you will be able to get things done that, because they understand who you are, they know what your values are. They know your level of dedication to professionalism, and so it's incredible. I mean, it really does enhance your ability to better represent your client, and when you do that, that always shows up in your production. So, you know, it is never taken anything away from my ability.
One of the things that I still tell agents all the time, but in recruiting and such as that, I would tell agents how important it was to get involved in the board, because you get to know another agent. And when you get into a situation with a buyer and seller being very difficult, and if you know that other agent, you feel more comfortable because you realize it's not the agent so much, it's the buyer or the seller pushing it. And so that's another reason to get involved with the association is you get to meet people, get to be around agents and get to know them. And, you know, hopefully when you do a deal together, you'll feel better about them, because if you don't know that person, you don't know their personalities at all.
For the, is it TRLP? Is there requirements to take that? Certain levels that you have to meet?
So there,
Yes.
yes, you have to have served in some capacity. Then you have to submit an application. There is a committee that meets, that reviews the applications, and you have to be selected. I actually sat with Joyce at Greater Fort Worth. I represented the Julia.
It's our first, I think it was our first time when we started having them in our area.
It was, which again, another reason why I helped you professionally, right? I created relationships before I ever used her as the broker. But you go through that process, they read through your application, they ask some very specific questions about why you want to go through TRLP. And it's amazing because you can understand what a person's motive is. If they're just looking for some kudo, you can see it in their answer where their heart really is. And if your heart really isn't about being developed as a professional to give back to the board, if you could serve better, it will come out in your answers and you will not be selected. If it's really about you and it's not about service, you're not going to get there. Then once you're selected, then you get to go.
And I might add, it's not, I mean, the whole idea of the whole program was to hopefully bring leadership up through the association. But there's been several that have not wanted to do that, but they said that particular classes and time was absolutely perfect for their business.
And
So,
just so you know, if you have the desire to go through the TRLP program, if you'll come see me or someone that's here on the panel to help you with your application, and we'll pay for half if you go through the program. So we support that and we advocate for leadership growing up in our organization. So
Well, and like you said, once you started serving, it lines you up for the next rung of positions. So I know even if you dip your toe into one of the committees that don't necessarily require as much of a time commitment, which I want to go to next. The next thing that happens is that there are certain roles within these different units that work to develop those leadership people up as well, and they will start recruiting you also from within.
Just to throw in,
Yeah.
Texas Realtors is also looking for people to serve on their committees, and they are in the application process now.
Yesterday,
Make sure you read your emails.
it started.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, yeah.
And so I did want to talk about that, about time commitment too, and a little bit about, I'm not gonna say the word job description because it's not a job, it's a service, but. We kind of just danced on a bunch of different ways that people can serve. Can you guys tell a little bit about what it means to serve on those? Maybe did it take a once a week commitment, a once a month commitment? Do you spend a couple hours at the board talking with other people about a topic? Do you do it from your house? Tell us just a little bit about your actual service. Anybody?
For me, so I don't actually serve on the Community Services Committee now. But when it's stuff the bus time, I jump in. I'm still a part of the committee, but I don't go to the meetings. If that makes any sense. For my board, the GLA board is once a month. We're there about an hour to an hour and a half. Then on the Netris board, it's once every other month. And we are there 2 hours, and that's in downtown Dallas. So you need to think in terms of commute time as well involved.
I did that one whenever we switched to Matrix. It was intense.
Yeah, so when I was a Texas Realtors director, occasionally we would have things we would have to vote on, but it was done by email. And then the actual board meetings are at the conferences that are held twice a year. So those were times away from family and from your business to some degree when you're on those and on that level, but it's twice a year. And so it wasn't too bad.
Well, you're not serving on all of those at one time.
No, I'm not. No, I'm just kind of giving you like the timelines for each board. But like right now, I'm on the Netris board, but I'm not a Texas Realtors director. And right now I've served my 4 years and I had to roll off.
Well, and when she was a director, because, or when I was director, you still go to your winter meeting and you go to the,
Go to the winter meeting.
Yeah.
so there's
Just
2 meetings per year.
Okay.
So you have one that hits in February, and the other one's what's.
The conference in September.
Yeah.
So those are appointed positions. So for example, GLAR appointed Karita. And based on your board size will dictate how many directors each board is given. So you go to your board of directors meetings for your local board every month. But then you have your state director meetings twice a year. So that when you do simultaneously, because you're an appointee to your board,
Right.
to the state.
But your schedule's given in advance, you know what your time
Oh.
is gonna be, it's not like.
You know exactly what days you're going. I know with the GLAR, I know on January, what day every month I'm going to have to make sure that my Friday morning's available. So you have time to pre-plan. It's not like they're going to drop a meeting on you and you've got to be somewhere in
Right.
2 hours. And you've already got something planned, you know when the meetings are coming. But it's not a lot of time when you think of the hours you spend doing everything else.
Yes.
And it's
And the board's
it's what we
always
do.
very stringent about keeping the time.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
if a tree pack meeting is from 10 to 11, it goes from 10 to 11.
So what are you doing in the meeting, Catherine?
Just hanging out. We're planning events, like our last pickleball happy hour event. We plan the event, and then when you go to these events, when you pay for your tickets, it also goes towards your tree pack funding or donation, investment. I say donation, it's investment. So, yeah.
Depending on what board I'm on,
Mhm.
varies, with GLAR, we're talking about business issues, things that affect GLAR and the state. At the state level, of course, you're looking at what things are happening that are affecting all the realtors across the state, not just a local area. Voting on things that, well, it could impact the realtors, or it could just impact a specific committee or the higher executive board or something to that effect. You get the agendas ahead of time, you know, you have time to read and you have time to think and ask questions, and so that you know which way to vote to better serve everybody. So you have to take off your personal hat and you have to wear a hat for every realtor. So my decision can't be at Netris, my decision can't be based solely on what I think or how it might impact GLAR, or how does it impact the MLS, our entire MLS.
And when you serve on executive committee, there's a thing, it's called a strat plan. There's a strategic plan, and whoever is president has spent several years, because at least in GLAR, you had to be on the board of directors for at least 2 years before you could be secretary treasurer, before you could be president-elect, before you could be, so it's this whole, years to get there, right? And so there's a vision that you have, and that vision gets developed through those years of service. And so when the strategic plan is done in the fall before you become president, that person has cast a vision, and through that vision, your chairs also grab a hold of that vision. So it's not about an individual agenda. When you're talking about like your chairs and your co-chairs or your chair and vice chair. There's a vision and what our focus is going to be. And then everyone is very geared to what that focus is. And then the strategic plan that is prepared the year before, and it's influenced by your immediate past president, and then of course works closely with NAE, Association Executive. So everyone in the board is working towards a common goal of some type. There is a theme for that year, whether it's education based, whether it's governmentally based, whatever the case may be. When I was immediate past president was when we had the COVID shutdown. That was a huge time commitment. We met every single week as an executive committee to stay in front of what we needed to do with the staff. We needed to communicate to the industry. Like it was very, we did not know it was coming. Not that happen. No, I had a fabulous year as president. I was just really grateful that I was the president. All I had to do is just give it to him. And that's what the immediate past president does. Immediate past president is there to advocate for the current president to be a little bit of a mentor, just of their experience to just kind of be that bridge, I guess you would say. But if you're in the executive committee, then you meet the week before your regular board of directors meetings. You may have additional finance meetings, you may have additional meetings. The executive committee is definitely a lot more labor intense, a lot more time.
Tell what it is.
Executive committee, your executive committee is your total leadership. That's your president, that's your president-elect or vice president, however the board has that articulated. That's your secretary treasurer, that's your VPs, that's your president and your immediate past. So that is your executive committee. So that's more labor intense, but you've got to have a heart for them.
And this is at the board level.
That's at the board level.
Yes.
So and even at a state level, so the local board really simulates the state, which simulates national. We have the same way. It's all the same. We actually
Robert's rules.
and yes, Robert's Rules of Orders is how it works in all of the meetings.
What is Robert's Rules of Orders? Anthony?
And the mediator.
Just the way that the format that's used for
Following a meeting.
most meetings.
To keep the meeting on time, moving along, being respectful of other people's input.
Yes.
I'm gonna say, when I was trustee for 4 years. I was busier.
Tell what it is too.
Okay,
What a trustee is.
a trustee is a state position. And I was covered Region 3, which is 3 boards: Greater Metro West, Granbury, and Greater Fort Worth. And I, again, it was kind of a liaison position, but I helped with all things tree pack, and I attended tree pack meetings 4 or 5 times a year in Austin. I attended all the meetings locally. I probably didn't have to, but I took it pretty seriously. But all that time came back to me. So I think when you really have a servant's heart, just like if you serve with your kid's school or your a charitable organization. What you give, you get. And so when you choose to serve on a committee, whether it's a hard one or an easy one, I mean, my first year in real estate, I served on business after hours. You don't do nothing but show up at a meeting, I mean, we didn't have to raise money. We didn't have to. Yeah. I mean, we just, you met other people. It was a good entree into board service, but there was really no commitment level. And then you get, with each level, but like I said, it all comes back to you. So if you go into it with a level of service, you get what you get.
For professional standards, the time requirements is that they'll send out, they'll ask, hey, are you available? They'll give you, several weeks or months heads up. Hey, there's a grievance or ethics panel that we need hearing officers for. Can you participate? So they reach out to you, ask you if you have the time. If you have the time, you set aside a few hours one day. It's probably, a few hours once every month and a half. And then prior to the hearing, they'll send you all the information. You read over it. During the panel, you'll discuss it. So maybe 3 hours commitment every month and a half. But for that, I have, just as you said, I was of the assumption that if I do this service, my business is going to decline. It's quite the opposite. I've had private mediations that I've sold to parties that they go, hey, I noticed that you can do mediation. We'd like to hire you for this. So I, made additional money there. So very much
I think you see people in leadership are usually some of the top agents.
Yes. We want you guys to know, to touch on something you said earlier about the recruiting. Eric and I do have it in our RE/MAX Trinity cross-country packet that several of our agents serve on the different boards, and we've got a whole page dedicated to our leadership service, but also what all the agents currently and have done across all different boards, because it really does make a difference when people see it. So does anybody else want to tell about what their role entailed? We've got voting, we've got some involvement. I will say, I know I did the events committee where you got to put together the area events once a month, and you had a little buddy that you got to work with. And I did the same as Tracy, where you mentor the next person coming in. My cycle was 2 years, and it was once a month, and it was actually quite a time commitment, but not something excessive that I wouldn't recommend to somebody else. Kathy, you probably remember that. Kathy used to help me with my PowerPoints when I would freak out. So, so what else?
Professional development committee is a once a month committee, and we meet and we talk about, or the board, usually the liaison at the board brings to us different speakers that are going to give educational topics for CE and for non-CE. That's pretty wide, eyes wide open too, because there's a lot of education about, like, I'm not much of a land seller person, but if I was a land seller person, I would be concerned about water rights, because that's a hot topic, and they're developing a course on that. There's a girl on the committee that is phenomenal, and she just like opened my eyes. I'm like, good thing I don't sell acreage.
I think everything starts on the committee level initially, because you're discussing the topics that are hot topics, things that need to be addressed. It goes to the next level, it goes to the next level. Next thing you know, the ones at the Capitol telling the bodies.
Yep.
So that's where everything starts on the committee level. You don't really think about it because you're like, oh, we're just talking about it here.
Right.
It's also getting passed up. It's getting passed up. So.
Well, and what he's talking about that Melinda did, which Kathy and I have now been with her twice to do that, but essentially you go as maybe 6,000 of the 100 and some odd thousand realtors in the state go to the Capitol at the same time, and of those 6,000 that show up, there's a handful that speak directly to their constituents. All of us pile in a room, and Melinda pulls out a beautiful notepad and articulates on behalf of the 100,000 agents across the state exactly what we want as a realtor community. So I think that's super impressive too.
Or we'll burn the Capitol down.
Yeah, later tomorrow. Can you involved in leadership? Can you tell what that involves? What is it? Why would we do leadership? And what is leadership? What do you do during the month? What do you do once a month? Anybody?
So for me, for GLAR, I travel to Louisville.
Okay.
And we discuss, we have an agenda. And every chairperson of the committees give the report for that committee of what was discussed in that committee meeting, what they may have planned in terms of a fundraiser, an activity or whatever. Then when I can, I talk about NETRAS, all the Texas Realtors directors will give reports. I mean, it's just a matter of putting it all into one room and one consensus. And it's filed, those notes are filed. And then from there, the executive committee, the president, the AE, if it's an issue that really needs to be pushed up, then it gets pushed up to whatever level it needs to go up to so that it can be addressed.
Is that just for traditional leadership or is that for the leadership group?
I'm not sure I'm following you on the question.
So here's an example of that. So if you're on the budget and finance committee, okay? And you're looking at budget cuts, budget increases, whatever the case may be. So the budget and finance committee makes their plans. They're like, we need to adjust the budget, right? Like our membership numbers are up. And this was what we budgeted as our income, but now it's looking lopsided. It's not looking right. We busted out our budget. So do we want to adjust that budget or do we feel like this is just something that's happening temporarily? And if there's going to be a budget adjustment, then what happens is there's an item added to the agenda for the board of directors. And budget and finance will ask for whatever, they'll make a motion for whatever they're wanting to adjust within the budget. And then the board of directors will say yay or nay, or there will be discussion. But everything in every committee, and that was just one that I read I wrote.
Yeah,
That's the way it works in every committee. So for example, if there is a tree pack fundraiser that they want to do, but the budget for tree pack for that year is X amount of dollars, but their idea is going to require additional funds. Okay, in order to be able to do that, then that comes back up to the board of directors because it will require a budget adjustment in order to fulfill that request. So it's done by Robert's rules. That's the format that's used. It provides every board of director an opportunity to have their voice heard as a yay or a nay. Then it's open for discussion. And once the discussion happens, if you as an individual have a perspective that could in fact change the way people are going to vote, that is your opportunity to influence the vote. People may agree with you, they may not. But the bottom line is whatever is decided in the board of directors, even if it was a yay and you were a nay, when you leave that room as a board, you made a decision. And you stand behind the decision that was made, because it's made in a democracy.
Fairness.
In fairness, everyone had a chance to have their voice in the majority rule. And so then
people who serve got the chance to have their voice heard.
that is a fact. That is a fact.
There you
So
go.
Yeah.
if you're not going to serve, then, but go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, because I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
Well, I think leadership can be what you make it too, because so I elected not to go through the leadership channel at my board meetings, go become president. And I've been asked multiple times to do that. And I tell people, I can lead other directions. Like last year, recruited almost the entire TRLP class, not by intention, but I just talked it up. Sometimes you just be yourself. Just like this panel, you just tell other people what you like or what you do. And somehow I recruited most of that class. But that doesn't mean
By leading by example.
by leading by example.
Yes.
Yeah. So you don't have to be in leadership to be a leader. And I think it's all what you, who you are as a person and how you choose to lead.
Well, in TRLP, we just had Michelle and Kelly also complete that, and their graduation was this week, yes?
Last Friday.
Yes, last Friday.
It was a class before that.
And that was a little bit more dynamic. Kids go on field trips when you do that.
Mhm.
It's a
Get
lot of
more
fun.
out of
It's
you.
really a lot of fun
It's
and
a
you
lot of
get,
fun.
you get really meshed in with the people that you're in to your. I mean, that's probably the only reason you like Anthony.
Well, I did have a concussion on the first day here.
You did.
Oh, that's very.
But and going back to what Malin said, I can see what she's saying. She's really not the presidential type, but she's such a strong supporter and she's really encouraged me. And I really appreciate her support and her encouragement.
Well, now I want to give Malin some kudos because
Yes.
whenever before I got on the board, Jackie stalked me for many years. And I was at a different brokerage. I wasn't even at Remax yet. And Jackie got me involved in leadership stuff. I think she was grooming me, looking back for sure. But I had always said, and it was kudos to Remax as well. The brokerage I was at, I knew a lot of agents from Remax, and Malin was one of them. And I would always see them at the board and just the way they carry themselves. I had no idea how much business they did. I didn't know really too much about them. I just know that they carry themselves very professionally. And whenever Jackie was waiting outside my bush to jump on top of me and to get me to Remax, I was thinking about that. And I was like, you know, there's all these people from Remax that I've seen them at the board. I don't really know anything about them. I know how they present themselves and I know how they carry themselves. And I thought that was really nice. So that's one of the reasons that I came to Remax.
Well, naturally, you're segueing directly into what I want to segue into, which is where it took you. So it took you here, which we're grateful for. For you, you met some of us before you ever acquired us, which created a warmth whenever you were coming into a sticky situation. For Malin, we'll let her tell where it took her herself personally.
Well, it took me away from Remax, which is hard. It's going to take me away
You're
from
never gonna be
Remax.
away
I know, I'm
from
never
us.
gonna be away from Remax,
Did you
but,
hear me behind
You can never leave.
so, June 1st, I'm going to be the new AE of the Greater Metro West Association of Realtors. So it's a really exciting opportunity for me. It's a big change, but so where it took me was all that thing we've already said before. There was a search committee that sought me out. I did not seek out this position. I turned it down the first time. I mean, it just didn't, I was like, what? No, but
She was trying to raise the salary.
yeah. I didn't do a very good job of that part, but anyway, but then, you know, you just have to look at it and say, well, I said to Tracy, there were a lot of doors that closed and this one kept opening. And sometimes you just have to look at what you've done, and what I've done just kept leading me down that road. And I didn't see it coming, but all the work I've done in the 14 years since I've been a realtor has led me to this AE position.
Which, by the way, she is going to make an amazing AE.
Absolutely.
He's going to encourage
And
leadership.
so I have to say thank you all, because every single person here has been so supportive of me. When I walked into the interview and saw Joyce, it was that moment where you think, oh, I thought this was like, no one knew, you know, I thought I had it so confidential. There's someone from my own office in that interview. And so it's just, but also to say that, I think when you're in a situation, in any kind of leadership situation, you know the character of the people in the room with you, and you know there's complete confidentiality. Like I had that blinking moment, and then you think, oh, this is never going anywhere. You know, I mean, you trust that she has that character and that she's completely trustworthy. Yeah.
And I
this
was
was
in
not-
an advisory position, not in a voting position. And there again, that was from my past leadership and working, and I even was interviewed Carolyn when she first came. And so I went through that process of an AE. And so there again, it all leads back to different things that
It's going
it's
back.
gonna put in your
It's not
life.
just
So,
right place, right time. It's your service,
right.
leaving a path for you that people can find, and people can follow if they want to follow it, or they can jump on it with you, or they can try to recruit you for something different that they envision you in. Does anybody else want to say what it's done for them professionally or personally?
I think for me, it really exposed me. I mean, I've been self-employed since '96, right? So I've been doing this for a long time. But I really love the exposure that it has given me in finance, right? You know, not that I can disclose what the budget amount is there, but it was a higher budget that I had my hands on for 5 years. I loved the way that it exposed me to the governmental affairs. It gave me a deeper level of understanding. I have very opinionated friends and.
No.
Opinionated friends. But.
You're five and track, you're track.
It's very certain.
So that's why it goes right along with this conversation.
It does, but it gives you an elevated perspective. I just really think it gives you an opportunity to see things beyond what you could see. And so then you begin to look at things differently. It's like when you're in a situation, you look for that elevated perspective because you know there's more that you don't know. And it opens your mind up, I think, to seeing things maybe a little differently than you did before. Which I think makes you a better leader, whether that's a leader in your home, a leader in your business, a leader in your community. I think it's beyond, and it's about being a part of something that's bigger than you. Which I
That's
think
because
is
for your whole life though. So what I know about Tracy is she's total service heart. She's got her side service ministry, which not even a lot of the agents know how much time she spends helping the people in that segment of her life. And then she adopted all of us, which wasn't a requirement. You could have kept floating and going where you were. So I think it calls to your personality as well, servicing. So it's gotta be fulfilling.
It does, and for me, it was very fulfilling. I mean, Karina and I worked together for several years, and Karina's very quiet. She would go back in her corner in her office. But when we started going to meetings together in Austin, I started having Karina write with me. Like there, and so this fabulous, wonderful friendship established. When I went to graduation last Friday, there are people that are now in executive committee. They're going to DC, it's time, right? And they're like, oh my God, you're gonna be here during C, you're so much fun, right? Like, I corrupted my people a little bit. I used to always make sure we had a fun. I always believed that we were supposed to serve and network and do our thing. But I always made sure whoever traveled with me, we would either go to the rooftop of the W one evening or
That's
something.
the most fun place.
That is the most fun. You know what I'm talking about.
I
So-
love that.
Colin and I are right there. But, you know, there's just these, I think for me personally, it's just provided these deep rooted relationships that are invaluable. I mean, even Anthony, like we shared a lot of really deep stuff in TRLP. Like you dig deep about who you are as a person to raise up as a leader. And so these lifelong relationships have established through this service. And for me, if it's not deep and it's not genuine, I don't really care about it.
You went through all that with Anthony and you still took us on.
It was funny when we had the lunch to meet them. I go into the lunch and I saw her and I was like, what are you doing here?
And I was same day.
Yeah. What are you doing here? And then I found out the switch. Yeah.
What about you personally, professionally?
It's whatever Mary tells me. It's whatever she tells me I have to do. Is that the question? Wait, what was the question?
Personal and professional.
Also very happy, very happy.
Yeah.
Answer.
That's my answer. Yeah.
Hopefully it's helped him.
No, I think it helps in all aspects of everything from your kids to your family to everything.
Anybody else?
I think the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's helped me through trying times. It's helped me with my confidence. It's kept me involved, so I don't have to focus on all the stuff that goes on in my private life. you know, so it's been really healthy. for me.
I'm happy you're the same. You love to be involved and you love to.
I
serve.
do.
Yes.
And before I was a realtor, my ex-husband and I owned a business. And I was involved then. I was on Chamber of Commerce, you know, I was all involved in that. And I know this is going to surprise you, Anthony. The Optimist Club. I was a big
I see you're,
proponent of the
I
Optimist
see you're
Club.
very optimistic.
So, but I've always been someone that gets involved and I get involved at my church too, so.
I was looking at Kathy's earrings. She's wearing one of each, red and blue.
Oh, I would know some.
I know.
I bought these especially because they're red and blue. They're called Plunder. They're very cheap. They're $5 a pair.
I feel like I'm in an estrogen bit.
Anthony, you need to pierce your ear.
Say this, that their in-court service, though this panel is mostly made up of women, if there's a lot of men
There's
that
a lot of men,
yes.
are in our organization that are serving, so don't let this panel fool you to think that, you know, it's 1 in 20.
I identify.
It's all ages, all demographics, it is all brokerages.
On the tree pack committee, I'd say it's pretty even, even mix.
And on the board too.
It is a professionalism.
Right.
So I don't know the other boards, I've only ever served with MetroTex, but it is the more professionally established brokerages typically. That you see sending people, you will get the one-off
Yes.
individual agents, things like
Yeah.
that, smaller brokerages, but there's a common thread of people that. See their profession as a career and as a profession and a
Yes.
passion, and not just as a job.
And I can say for myself, I didn't start with Remax. So I did start with a very small boutique type brokerage.
Yep.
Same here.
I found myself getting more involved after joining Remax.
Mhm.
And to me, the service that I've done, as I've said before, it was my opportunity to give back to an organization that has helped me grow. You know, not just financially, but just to grow emotionally and every other way. I came from a job that was very stressful. I was 24/7, 365. And when people tell me real estate is stressful, I'm like, you don't know stress. This is a piece of cake compared to what I did do. But that being said, I don't know, to me, it just adds to the fulfillment that I get. Just like going to a closing table, when I'm serving on whatever board, I feel like I'm fulfilling something, I'm still helping. It may not be directly to my client, but it indirectly helps my client.
Purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
That's right back to the point about, you're not doing it for an accolade or a title, you're
No.
doing it for the service. And the
Yes.
fulfillment that it brings giving back.
I want to say something on top of that. I was from a smaller brokerage as well. And then I'm a very numbers person. So whenever, when I did come to Remax, I became more involved in leadership. And I saw my overall numbers for everything increase, so.
I'm
I
not
do want to throw
on
that out.
this level, but same, my business doubled coming back to Remax. Cause I started and then jumped and now I'm back at Remax. And doubled my business.
Yes.
Well, let's see.
Anything
I-
bring this.
Okay, I wished I would have, I never knew what tree pack was till I came to Remax.
She couldn't
And
stop.
the first meeting, I was like, $35, that's fine. I'll sign the card for $35. You know, my first broker, I was at there and he's of course in prison, serving 10 years. That was a bad choice. And then I was at another brokerage that I never heard about tree pack. So it's kind of fun too. We have a tree pack posse, a few of us on the tree pack committee. We go around and talk to different brokerages about tree pack and the one we did last week was really pretty insightful. Smaller brokerage. We sat around their board table and talked to like their manager of their office and a few realtors there. the manager of their office didn't really understand what Tree Pack did. And he wanted my whole stack of cards. I'm like, here you go. So, it's, we're kind of thinking maybe our posse is headed in that direction where we sit down and have a conversation so people understand what Tree Pack does for, us and our clients and everybody.
Annexation.
Right.
Very good.
And Joyce, you have seen the market turn, but throughout it all, what I really find impressive is even in these wild situations that we've been in 09 and 10, also in the opposite of that, past few years, we've always found time to serve. Is that something that personally fills you, or what do you get from it personally?
Well, I think I'm a positive person.
I
I
do
try to be
too.
positive.
Yeah,
And, I always feel like I don't create the market creates itself. And so I might as well be there. People are gonna buy and sell houses regardless.
yeah.
When I first got in the business, the interest rates were so high. I went to a closing one day and this was a small amount for people to do, but they were bringing, this couple brought $15,000 to the table to close. And that was beyond my, way out of my, and so I've gone through all the foreclosures, I've done, all of it, but people still buy and sell houses during that time. So, I like the business. I like working with people. It's different every day because you got a different client every day or whatever. And so I just don't look at it as a negative. I just look at it
Yeah.
another bump in the road, just.
And that extra level of service gives you that consistent thread of staying connected to your purpose and what we're doing here, no matter what the market's doing.
And you only, the amount of money you make is only what you put into it.
Yes,
So it doesn't make any difference. You can be a best salesman there ever was, but if you're not working your clients or working with them, you're not gonna make any money. So,
I was telling Melanie that my target audience was about ages of 95 to 97, but I only did like 2 deals in the past 2 years, so I need to widen my range of ages I will accept.
yeah. Well, they sell, they're sellers.
that's our ethics person. Okay, before we close up, is there anything that you guys want to say that we have left off the table about service above the traditional role of a realtor? And then if anybody wants to comment on, if there's somebody listening now or in YouTube perpetuity, how does somebody go about getting information about getting involved?
I just want to say something not really related is look how different we all each are and how
Yes.
we all serve differently. And that's why I said earlier, you just do it your own way, but do it.
Just get involved.
Just get involved.
So contact your board, or contact, if you know someone who's currently serving, contact them. But what I would say is definitely try it.
Mhm.
Just try it. Make a commitment just once. Because the truth is, we need that next batch of leaders to come up, to rise up, that all of this work that's been done for all of these years will continue. And if you go and you try it, you're going to love it. I promise. And if you don't love it, it's because maybe you just need a different committee. But whatever you have a passion about, whether it's governmental affairs, or just go to a committee,
That's right.
go to the committee meetings.
Oh, that's a great
And check those out and see which one really speaks to your heart,
point.
and then sign up for that one, because committees are open to everyone. Board of directors is even, you can go sit in on a board of director meeting, you can't vote, you can't do any of that, but you even have the right to be at the board of director meetings. Unless they go into executive session and close it, and they'll let you know, but.
And Greater Fort Worth Board has a committee fair and you can go visit
Yes.
with
Yeah,
all
that's what
the.
I was gonna ask. They have fairs for each level.
Well, and even if you don't love it, it's because you see a way to change it. Sometimes there's,
Yes.
a
Ideas.
drive and passion to make a difference and see things differently.
I think
That's
of,
the way it's going.
for me, what really got me started was attending the networking breakfast that GLR had. When I first started, it was every Thursday morning. Now it's just the first Thursday of each month. But they always bring in interesting guest speakers. They only speak 10 or 15 minutes. You get a free breakfast and you get a chance to network not only with other realtors, but with the affiliates, the title companies, the mortgage companies, the home inspectors, and the list just goes on and on. Going to the network breakfast, and back in that 10 years ago, we had houses on tour because they didn't sell that quick. So we would always have a tour after, and it was a way to, you jumped in, you carpooled, you got to network in the car to get to meet people. And that was kind of my door to kind of figure out where to navigate for me. I do want to throw out, I personally don't participate for obvious reasons, but GLAR now has a young professional network committee or a group, what they call themselves YPN. You don't have to be young
I was asked to leave.
yeah.
I'm too old.
Trying to find the next 95-year-old client.
You don't have to be young, but if you are new and young and you want to find an interesting way of getting involved and making the real estate better, that's a great way. Justice Carlisle is the leader of the GLAR group, and he would love to talk with you. But www.glar.com, if you're on that side of the country and want to get involved. I enjoy it.
This is president-elect.
Yes, he is.
So
He's come in and he has just gone up the ranks. In addition to the association breakfast, find a networking real estate group. There's a ton of them on this side of town.
Yep.
I'm part of one that meets in Keller every Thursday morning. Right now we're at a place called Junior's Barbecue on Roof Snow.
Yep.
And, hour and a half on Thursday mornings, again, free breakfast because the affiliates pick up the tab, you get a chance to network. And there's always a guest speaker for about 5 or 10 minutes. It's a great way to get information and to meet and learn from other people.
And timeline wise, we touched on this earlier, but the state level opened yesterday. So
Yeah.
if you want to know how to get involved with Texas Association of Realtors, look into that immediately because it's currently open. You want to get aware of a committee that you might want to serve for a local board over the next few months because they will open their application process in the early fall. And then I don't know about national.
They just closed their applications.
Okay, so national is closed for now.
Yeah.
But if it's something you wanted to do, then it would come back around in
I
April.
believe it's pretty cool.
So, but either way, you could start now by exploring them and kind of determining what might fit your personality and your life and your schedule. And then kind of go from there. Is there anything else that you guys want to make sure to say before we close up? And also if there's any questions at all.
I think Melanie needs a talk show.
Yes.
Yes.
Melanie can absolutely do a podcast.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yes,
So I need a committee where I get to interview.
that's all I have. That's all I have.
I could be the sarcastic sidekick, but that's about it. I do my little
But you need-
jazz, but podcasting.
Every great co-host.
Yes.
Well, bring it up.
It's kind of my sarcastic.
Yeah, bring it back to service. The ones I'm looking at are very outside of my personality box. So in the past on committees I've served for, I started with technology because to your point, you started with finance. Then I went into the service side of it by doing the MLS meetings and the group and stuff. But now I'm looking at stuff that's completely out of my box, like government affairs and things like that. So we'll see where that goes.
We serve on the RE/MAX Trinity Committee.
Yes, we
so-
did.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Which we appreciate.
Thank you.
Yes, got our
Yes, we do.
president, our other co-president, our VP, all right here. Anyways, anybody else have anything else to say? And is there anybody on this panel that would not want somebody to contact them with questions about this?
That was fun.
You don't get to vote.
Everybody but Anthony will talk to you about this.
Talk to engineer.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys? Okay, well, I cannot thank you guys enough.
I say, don't call me for 3 weeks.
Don't call in for 3 weeks, but then after that, take her to lunch.
Yes.
She's on the boat and bike tour.
Yeah, I'm on the boat and bike tour this afternoon.
Yes, well, I really appreciate all of you so much. I was actually,
Thank you.
Tracy knows this, beyond excited about this particular panel because I find, I really admire all of you because you do go above and beyond what you need to do for a traditional role, and it's not a paid job by any means. So it's not, you're not getting a salary, you're not getting a
No.
bonus.
Well,
But-
that is now.
Well. Thank you guys. so much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
guys.
Thanks.
Now I'm gonna have all your autographs.
Right.